Well, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Everything so far has been great. I mean, I transitioned from, you know, a very toxic work environment to a less toxic work environment. Medicine is, a little bit stressful around. There's no utopia. And in working with Deborah, she is, really helps me, not be very reactive. I went from, even though it was a toxic environment, I had a lot of control over what my staff did and things. So now I'm, a true employee and I don't have as much control. So that's a little tough for me, and trying to get what I need without going, bonkers. But it's been very helpful.
Right.
And realizing that just because things aren't going my way, doesn't mean that I have to agree with it, but there are certain things I can change and certain things I can't. And I had the fortune of doing a lot in the beginning of group sessions with your mom.
Right.
And then, but at that time I still wasn't working, but I got a lot of, took away a lot from her group meetings that I could take with me. That's always been helpful.
Yeah.
And then when I started working, I couldn't do her Friday, and then I had my women's golf league every Monday night. So, and that has been very de-stressing for me. It's one of the great things I look forward to doing every week with my friends. So I've had, I really have been through your mom's group session with Deborah, really focusing on what I need to get done. And also your lectures that you did when I did a lot of the
Self-paced.
That, get done what you have to get done. Don't waste time. Because I'm a social butterfly, so I like to go around and see what other people are doing. And I'm a nosy body. So, but now I don't. I have my own office. I go in, I get my work done. I close my door. I half open it if, somebody really needs me, but I usually close it, or I go in there when I just need to de-stress and not react. So I get my work done so I can get home, spend time with my kids, go play golf, enjoy golf. We love to go walk in our local state park. So we do that a lot. So I come home, I don't feel that overwhelming stress that I have to get 50,000 things done and I didn't get my inbox done. So, and just really focusing on that. So that's, it's all been so far so good. And my new position is also, just different. Like I'm only expected to see 12 to 14 patients a day. I get 40-minute appointments for well exams, new patients, things like that. So it's been a little bit easier like that. They have a different concept of how they feel physicians should be treated, which is, delightful.
Right.
But I think part of that is we have to do a lot more administrative work, so that the staff doesn't do. So I think that kind of focuses into it. I kind of had that realization about a month ago. So, which is fine. And, but I just get it done and I focus, and I do charting when I need to do charting, and then I'm done, and then I don't look at it till the next day. And unless it's an emergency, somebody else can take care of if I'm not on call. And then, just doing that. So we did have a little snafu when we started. They do have this really interesting concept, which I really think is a really great concept. They have video primary care. So after hours, if somebody calls the on-call doctor, they get the opportunity. Go ahead.
Before we hop into that, I want to say, just kind of on everything you shared so far, you did the work.
I really did. I put a lot of work and effort into it. Yeah.
That is amazing, because you came stressed and feeling like you weren't doing enough and there wasn't enough hours in the day, and you didn't have time to golf and be with your friends, and you weren't appreciating the things you're doing well. And you've made a 180. You're doing a great job. That is amazing. Everything you just told me. Wow. You're golfing and you've got this time. And what you told me about the charting and closing, setting boundaries was a big sticking point.
Very big sticking point, and boundaries with patients. I worked a lot with Deborah because I would always say yes. And I just learned to say no. And, she
Wow.
helped me realize I'm doing the best I can. And if the best I can isn't best for everybody, then they don't have to come see me. And that was very hard for me. But I actually had to tell a couple patients that, and I felt guilty for a split second, but it was more liberating than it was guilt-ridden. So I really did. And don't get me wrong. These pathways take forever, and I do have cranky days, and I'll come home and I'll complain about something. But most I'll complain just how like a patient was like rude or obnoxious. I don't complain about the work I do. I mean, I love taking care of patients. I feel, and I think my family recognizes that I don't come home and I'm just like a miserable Betty all day. That I come home and I enjoy myself and we can laugh and, have dinner together and, watch reruns of Modern Family and laugh hysterically and, more things. So it has really changed my life. I mean, just that and doing all the lectures that you and your mom did have, and I like a lot of them repeat the same message. So you're just kind of like, this is it, and this is what you have to do. And, I think pretty much the whole world has imposter syndrome. And, I just have to get over that and not worry about what I think people are thinking about me and just worry about, what I'm getting, done for the day. And, so, I mean, it's good. It was scary going into another, full group of doctors, like 10 other doctors that you don't know.
Are you talking about professionally or in the group coaching?
Professionally, like my new practice is 10 doctors. And, I come as a well-experienced physician. And it's kind of interesting because some of them are like, the older doctors thought I was a new doctor. I'm like, oh no, I'm just new to you. I'm very well experienced. So, and I mean, to the point, like, it was actually very refreshing because some of the doctors will come and ask me my advice because I'm a geriatric physician. So they needed help with some of the patients they were seeing. And I was more than happy to do that. So that was very nice. So, but saying no has always been a problem for me, and it gets me into a lot of trouble. And it is always, in the past several years has made me very resentful. And I remember my girlfriend's a psychologist. She said, if you say yes to something and you feel resentful, then the answer should have been no, but you should have said that in the first place. So I am learning to do that. So, and focusing on the good that I can get done and continue to do. So I thank you and your mom. It's been really
very inspirational.
Yeah.
Very inspirational.
Yeah. I in the beginning, I think I was like, oh, I just don't know. I know me. I don't know if this is going to change me, but I really, I invested the time and the money, and it was something that I definitely needed to do for myself, and I worked on it. My family knew I was. So, when I would sit there at night and listen to my lectures, and they would just leave me alone and knew that whatever I was doing was something that was going to benefit them as well. So it's been wonderful all around. So thank you.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One question that I have for you is, when you say Deborah helped you set boundaries, how did that actually look? Was she helping you get more comfortable with it? Did you practice the conversations? I think a lot of people are curious what actually goes on in coaching. So how did that process look for you?
We would talk about like a situation, and sometimes it was all over the place. And so she set boundaries with just one thing at a time. So that was good. We would have conversations, like we would talk back and forth as if I was going to speak to my office manager about boundaries and things like that. And we would go through the scenario of what was bothering me that I needed to take care of. And I would go in and I would say exactly what we discussed in our meeting, and it worked. So, it was good. And, just with, how to talk to patients when they were unhappy with, I went to this new practice. I brought a lot of my patients with me, and, I have patients booked out. Like my patients that came and followed me, I have a 1-year non-compete. So I'm in an office in New Jersey, and I'm going to go back to Pennsylvania in 1 year, but they followed me from Pennsylvania, but they're booked out until January. So they're agitated and upset, but I can only do what I can do. And, I even said to one patient, I said, well, I had 200 patients waiting for me before I even walked in the door. How was I going to see all them in a day? Like, I can only do what I can do. And a lot of them are like, oh, yeah, I get it. And some of them aren't. So I had to say to a couple of patients, well, I completely understand if this isn't the practice for you, but I have to be here for a year. And if you don't want to be here, you don't have to. And I completely understand you have to do what's best for you and your medical care. And they were kind of like, well, are you telling me to leave? I said, well, I'm not telling you to leave, but I'm just telling you these are your options because I can only do what I can do. And this is what I'm going to do. And I chose to come here for a better work-life balance. And that's my goal. And they're like, some of them are like, okay. And some of them, like one or two were like, okay, I'm not coming back. I'm like, okay, that's fine by me. And that would have crushed me a year ago. I would have been like, oh my God, no, I'm sorry. You can stay. Now it's just like, I can only do what I can do. So, and I do let them know I cut back on my hours. I went from a 36 patient contact hour week to a 28 patient contact hour week for my own mental health. And I have like a day off. And when it's my day off, if somebody texts me or calls, I don't answer it until I go to work the next day. That's a big step for me. Deborah worked on that with me too. Just because if somebody texts me and it's my day off and I answer it, I get resentful. So now I don't answer it. And the next day I'll just say, look, I don't work on Wednesdays and I don't answer any calls on Wednesdays.
Wow.
And those are big boundaries for me. Like it's like a big deal. So
and how empowering is that? You're with family and you see the text and you think to yourself, you know what? I'm actually going to stay here right now.
Yeah, I do.
I'm sure in that moment that feels great for you.
And that was another very important thing that I learned from your mom as well, is being in the moment. Like when I'm with my family, being in the moment and not worrying about what, what it could be going on in the office, or if somebody's texting me, because, I have a lot of one-sided friendships, people who have my cell phone number from years of like, our kids being on the same dance teams and soccer teams and things like that. So that eventually became my patient. So, it is a very big deal, because normally I would text them back right away and then it would go into this long conversation and then I'd be complaining about it at 10 o'clock at night that so-and-so bothered me all day. But these are choices that I chose to answer it and I chose to get into this conversation. So, Eleanor Roosevelt says we teach people how to treat us. So I believe that I have to reteach people how to treat and respect me.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually had a patient in my office on Monday, and I never would have said this. She's actually the wife of a physician. And while I was having a discussion with her about her multiple complaints, she was shopping on her phone. And I said, Joyce, are you shopping right now? And she said, yes, I am. And I said, okay, well then we're finished this office visit. You can continue to shop. I'll meet you out front with all of your labs and things like that. She says, I'm not done. I said, well, I'm done, because if you're shopping, then we're done. And I just kind of walked out. I never would have done that. I would have said, oh, Joyce, what are you buying? What do you do? I'm just like, I just don't have
you
bandwidth to deal with that anymore. So, and I did it very politely, but I just said, are you shopping? And she said, yeah. I said, okay, well then you can continue to shop and we'll just go out there. And she was not happy. And I said, well, Joyce, I think that if you're shopping during our office visit, then our office visit is done. And I said, we took care of a lot today, and I'll meet you up front with your prescriptions and whatever. And then she followed me out. She's like, I had a lot of other things I wanted to talk about. I said, well, you can make an appointment at another time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to get out of here, because I could feel myself getting really agitated. So I was like, all right, I got to diffuse this and get out, and because I think I would have went ballistic. So try not to react. Then I go sit in my office for 5 minutes because I wanted
to. But then you go to bed that night and you think, hey, I actually really stood up for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Normally I wouldn't do that. But yeah, I just, I find it interesting, I just see it, and maybe it's just since COVID, the lack of decorum that people have, especially, for physicians. They talk on the phone, they do I don't know. One time I had a patient pick up the phone in the office and make an appointment for her dog with the vet, and I just looked like with my mouth wide open, and I sat there. And then after the visit, I'm like, why didn't you just sit there and let her do that? She just got up and walked out. Like, why would you let anybody do that? You would never do that to anybody. And then I was mad the whole like next 2 days because I let myself do that, and I swear I would never do that again. So, but I mean, really, it's you know, it's a daily process to continue to do all this, but I work on it every day. And I, you know, have your mom's book sitting on my desk. So I read through that sometimes. I'm like, all right, let me read this, and I love her little quotes and things like that. I have a couple of those taped on my desk. So,
And
yeah.
and have you read her first book?
I did not read her first book. I didn't.
I'm going to send you a copy after this because
thank you.
I think you'll really like that one too.
I mean, I have the copy that your mom sent that she signed, which is like my precious copy. I had bought a copy before. That's how I reached out to do coaching. And I have a patient that I've been taking care of for years, and her daughter's a family doctor. And I've known Emily since she was in high school. And her mom was telling me all the stuff that's going on. So I went to my office and I gave her the other copy of my book. I said, please tell your daughter to read this book and call me with any questions. I said, I reached out to learn about boundaries. I said, she's only 32 years old. She can't live her life like this because she won't last till she's 40.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh my gosh. She's like, I don't want to take your book. I said, no, please. I'm happy to give it to her. I have my own special copy, but I want her to read it. And I gave it to her. I said, she really needs to read this book. So
I'm getting a little touched and emotional here, and I'm so proud of the changes that you've made. It sounds like they're really benefiting the people in your life, yourself, everyone. I have